This DVD is a labor of love by the mediators who volunteered their time and allowed themselves to be videotaped in a role-play mediation. I felt honored to be present throughout the role-plays and to experience the different approaches of the mediators firsthand. And it was intriguing to me to see the mediators at work. We at Macro wanted to demonstrate different mediation approaches by some experienced mediators in Maryland, all mediating the same situation. So we developed a workplace role play about Lonnie and Ruth to serve as the situation for the conflict. Ruth is the manager of a 10-person unit in the State Department of Health. Lonnie is a graphics artist and web designer who reports to Ruth. As you will see, a conflict arises after Ruth gets a new boss. In some of the role plays, there's discussion of a romantic interest between Ruth and Lonnie, further complicating the situation. Macro hired actors to portray the parties in the mediation. Over a 2-day period, 8 mediators came at appointed times, and the actors played their parts over and over again for an hour-long role play in each case. We hope this role play demonstrates a variety of mediator techniques. This role play, however, does not do justice to any of the mediators because it simply shows small snippets which are out of context. It does convey something of each mediator's particular style. We hope you will use this DVD as a way to consider the mediation challenges represented here and as a stimulus to your own creativity. I hope you will listen and watch with appreciation to receive the gift that these mediators offered by participating in this project. And I hope you enjoy the DVD.
Hi, my name is John Bickerman.
Hi, I'm Ruth Bonds.
Ruth, nice to meet you.
Lonnie Gray. Lonnie Gray.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I understand you have a dispute here that you would like some help, and I've been asked to help mediate the dispute that you have. Have you ever been through mediation before, Ruth?
I have not. This is my first time.
I was through mediation once, and I didn't feel like it was particularly, for me, effective because it just kept getting dragged up. Nothing got solved, I thought, in a timely fashion. I think things just sort of drifted, and it was more painful, frankly, to keep, going through stuff than it was to really focus and assess and get things taken care of.
Well, I appreciate you hearing that from you. I think that what we're going to try to do is, I can't promise that it will be painless, but I'm going to try to help you with this process in such a way that we'll get to the issues. We won't go over stuff over and over again, and we'll try to resolve it in the time we have.
I've got enough to get started. I know I'm going to need more detail. Let me tell you a little bit about mediation. Mediation is a process for helping people talk about and work through issues in which they disagree, or they have some level of conflict, or they have some different viewpoints about what happened, or more importantly, what should happen. Because one thing we know for sure is whatever did happen can't be changed. You can't change the past. What we can do is, what I can do is help you talk to each other and see if there's some way to save this thing, to resolve this thing, to figure out a way that you can work together in the future under less stress, under less level of animosity. And the way we do that is a process called mediation. And in this, we just talk back and forth. We start sharing what our concerns are, what our viewpoints are, and then we start looking at what the options are for how to go forward. Mediation.
Are you listening?
I'm not, because I'm looking at these and thinking the 1 or 2 M&Ms that you see in here, that's the artistic staff. The rest is everybody else getting opportunities.
You are out of your mind.
I'm serious.
Do you
As a creative, as an artist, I see these kinds of things. You see a couple of different colors, and they're the fewer ones, and all this other stuff is the rest of the government working, kind of crowding upon.
It's hard. It's hard.
Nuts. That's what you are.
It's hard for creative people to work within the same structure that less creative people work in. That doesn't mean that they're absolved from following rules and structure, but it does mean that they look at things differently. And I can appreciate the way you've looked at that, and I can appreciate the humor in what you said about the nuts. Let me go back to mediation first and tell you a little bit more about the ground rules, and then we'll come right back to seeing if we can't help you figure this thing out.
Because one of the things that you have here that other processes don't provide to you is mediator confidentiality. And what that means is that anything that the two of you are discussing right here as it relates to me, I'm not sharing that with anybody else at the department where you work. It means a lot. So it gives you some flexibility, gives you some safety to be able to explore some things. Now, well, it also includes notes and things like that. Anything that any of us takes here today, or you may have prepared some notes to today, for today, those are all confidential too. What it doesn't mean, however, is that your hands are bound in any way for talking to anybody else whom you'd want to about what happened here.
I just want to go over just a few basic ground rules very quickly with you, especially Ruth, since you haven't been through mediation before. But the most important one is that this process is confidential. And what that means is that the things that you tell me, either collectively or individually, I will keep to myself and can't hurt you in the future if we can't settle this dispute. And that's a very, very important concept. It's confidential in a second way as well. There may be times, I'm not sure there will, but there may be times when I'll want to speak to one of you separately than the other. And if I do, the things that you tell me, I won't share unless I have your permission, okay? And the reason we want this process to be confidential is it's my hope that we'll get into some pretty tough stuff and that we will be able to talk about it honestly and openly, and that you'll trust me and share what's really bothering you, what the issues are. And that's why it's confidential.
I want to make sure that I don't mean any harm, but I think these were your ground rules, or did I mistake something here?
They're our ground rules.
They're your ground rules? I just want to make sure that we're operating on your ground rules, because I'm notorious for writing things up there that people didn't tell me. Did I miss something here?
No, you're right.
No? Okay. Let's go back to you, Lonnie.
So at this point, we're going to give you both time to speak about the situation that brought you both to mediation, and then we're going to check to make sure we understand what both of you have said. We're going to ask questions to make sure that we're getting an understanding of what you want to resolve in mediation as well.
So what do you guys want to work on today?
How long have you worked together? We have worked together for 5 years.
Was there a time, Ruth, where the communication seemed to be a little more comfortable, or forthright, professional?
I think that we've actually worked fairly well together. I have a new boss that has been hired on, and through him, he would like things to be a little more organized and documented. So as things get passed down the line, I think that's causing a little bit of friction between myself and some of the people that are under me.
Okay, and from what I hear you saying, that means that you're also having to make some adjustments yourself.
Yes.
Because you have a new boss and
a new way of working and thinking.
His or her expectations may be different. So you're having to make some changes yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Globally, generically, you want to be a successful person in business. You want to be respected for your work. You want to have, as an artist, some artistic license. Are these incorrect assumptions on my part, whether it's here or someplace? You want to be respected for your work.
I do. Okay. I do.
And you're a supervisor of a group, and you're working for a government agency, and that means that you have a different set of concerns and responsibilities, not any less important.
Correct.
But you have people to oversee and a product to get out, and it has to be a product that's acceptable to your bosses, and it's something that ultimately, if it's in the artistic realm, which this apparently is, has to be useful in marketing or in giving a message to the public.
And so it sounds like work hours or schedule is something that's really important to you. And I hear a suggestion in there about changing work hours. And when we get to step 4, you're going to be discussing all the ideas that you have for what will work for. Well, actually, we're just still getting the information about what's important to both of you.
I have a question I want to ask her, because it sounds like it's Ruth's job that we're talking about here today and not really your job. Why do I get that impression? Where do you think that comes from?
Why are we talking about my job? Because my job is the one that's at risk, not Lonnie's.
And everybody is feeling pressure, and everybody is in some way, you talked about Plan B. It sounds like rather than people's default mode of working fine, which you folks did, everybody is now functioning under their backup mode of what do you do when you're really stressed. And it sounds like there's a lot of behaviors that neither of you like. It sounds like you feel like you're being in some way pushed and controlled, and in turn you're feeling like you've got an employee who is making excuses and avoiding the work and kind of acting out as resistance. And it sounds like, again, somehow as a team you haven't found a way together and say, how do we make this a workplace we want to stay with? I mean, if this keeps going, are you both seeing that you want to continue here with the state?
Well, I'm wondering if, am I crazy, or do I just feel you are so closed off?
I'm just thinking in my mind right now as we're going through all of this, this is great that you're agreeing verbally to do all these things and you've written these things down and you're committed to sending in paperwork, but really lining the back of my mind, I know that I'm going to say 95% sure that you're not going to follow through.
And I was feeling the same way, that all
That
this
you're not going to follow through?
No. That's funny. She has a great sense of humor. No, that you will not see these through.
That I will not see them through.
Yeah, that we'll have this nice little mediation, and things will get discussed and talked about and written down, a contract signed, and then it'll all just.
So you don't trust you still don't trust each other?
Let's go over the record.
I love her.
Let's go over the record.
Did you hear what you just said?
Who is held accountable?
Did you hear what you just said?
Yes.
We don't trust each other.
Exactly. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you.
Worth the money that we're paying for her.
Earlier, you brought up something about relationships, and Lonnie, you sounded shocked when she mentioned relationships. Was that something you wanted to talk about? You were talking about relationships with other people in the office, and romance was, I think, the word that you used.
Yes, I think there's
she means her. I think she means.
No, I mean you making your way throughout the office, not doing your work, flirting, and causing weird tension between people.
And you not being in that loop, I think.
So if I'm not available and I'm not there, how would I possibly know this is going on? I see it.
No,
I see it, and I have people come to me.
I think you resent me flirting with other people and not flirting with you.
I don't think that's the case.
I think it is the case that there's some kind of tension, of a sexual nature between you and I that you will not admit to.
No, there's not. There's not. There's not.
So when you say flirting, can you give examples? Like, what do you mean by flirting? And maybe then when you say sexual tension, you could talk a little bit about what you mean by that.
Well, what do you mean by the flirting?
You were just addressing this underlying loss about the working relationship that you used to have together.
Yeah, I think I need to let go of that. You know, it's evolved and it's changed.
So what would it take to let go of that? You know what? Let me show you something. This is something I do in some mediations.
Okay.
Pretend that all of this stuff, that's the negative stuff about this conflict and the issues in your relationship, is represented by this chair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the chair's sort of hooked to your ankle.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go along like this, dragging this chair with you.
Yeah.
And it really kind of slows you down, right?
Yeah.
Or you can disconnect from the chair and walk away from it. It's sort of a metaphor for, the mediation process and how you if everything's represented there, and you could try to move forward and away from the chair.
One of the things that Carl is suggesting here that might be helpful for the two of you, and maybe you can think about this, try it out here in the next couple of minutes, is to speak what is true for you. So if you said to Ruth, when you interrupt me, I feel disrespected, and what my request is that it would really help me if you could wait until I'm done speaking,
mm-hmm.
and try to see if you can help me understand that you've heard me before you come back and tell me your opinion. And then I'll do the same for you.
Mm-hmm.
And see if that couldn't just break this cycle that you two are in, because my sense is it's not getting you where you want to go.
This all seems so rational, though. I guess that's a good thing.
It is. These are very simple problems. We just have to figure out.
You see, and then your tone kind of gets like that, and it makes me it makes this go, it makes them at the back go.
Well, because it just seems to me that there's a very simple solution to this, and you're just dragging it out and being overly dramatic about it all. When clearly there are simple answers.
Am I being overly dramatic?
Tell me, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay.
Tell me,
I will.
how do you two communicate with each other? Do you do it by email? Do you do it by phone? Do you run into each other by the coffee pot?
Lonnie, I do want to hear from you, but I have a thought. And I wonder if I want to see if this would be okay with you. Ruth, would it be okay if I talked to Lonnie privately for a few minutes and then brought you back? Would you mind if I did that?
Sure.
Can I run to the bathroom?
Yeah, you may do that. You know, Lonnie, while you're running to the bathroom, about confidentiality, if I were talking with Ruth while you're gone, it's considered a separate meeting. It's like a caucus, and they're fine in mediation. And then I would check out with Ruth if there's anything that she would want to keep confidential.
Okay.
And if Ruth and I talk, I'm going to let you know that when you come back in. And if you want a separate time to be able to talk, you're free to ask for that.
Thank you.
And in the interim, I'm going to put some things up here on the chart that I've heard both of you talking about.
Okay.
Okay?
We have come here to this mediation meeting to know that I should jot things down.
All we're doing right now is brainstorming what are some ways to get your job done in
And
a way
since
that
it's
might
your
be
job,
more
it would help if you
flexible.
would have a little input.
Well, I mean, you came up with one idea that you supported already, which is the office space. So, I mean, we're it's not huge amounts of headway, but we're getting somewhere.
Some kind of recognition, some kind of employee recognition, because I feel like the artistic staff is kind
It's
of
not
left.
McDonald's, Lonnie. You don't get Employee of the Month.
And I think, wow, you're going to let that one pass? I just took a huge hit.
Yeah,
Anywho.
no, it depends.
I'm not hearing from you, and I'm going to ask Lonnie to respond as well. I'm not hearing that there's any major disagreements in the perceptions of changes. What I'm hearing you say is that the ability to communicate about it in the same fashion that you were before seems to have changed or strained, or in some way you don't feel like you're reaching any sort of conclusion on what that is. How many artists do you have in your department, in your group?
Here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, one, that this process is not intended to result in Lonnie being terminated. This is really, what I'm hearing you say, Ruth, is that Lonnie's a valuable employee and you want to find a way to work
Yes.
through these issues so that he can stay.
Yes, I would like
Stay
it to
here.
resolve,
Okay.
have the.
And what I'm also hearing is the general grievances that you've described relate to somewhat of scheduling, of keeping regular hours, of meeting deadlines.
Yes.
That's one category. I hear another category related to your interpersonal relationship, dealing with respect, and then I hear a third category of issues related to teamwork and other members of your office
Yes.
staff. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it sounds like both of you are looking for accessibility of the other person, and you're both sort of stuck in, and you're both surprised and trying to figure out why it is that you can't find the other person because you feel like you're where you're supposed to be. Sid?
Yes.
So there's a real need that both of you have to figure this out. So Lonnie, while you were saying earlier that this potential job loss is very serious, Ruth, it's just as serious for you.
Yes.
And your job actually hinges on Lonnie's performance because you are a supervisor.
I don't want you to lose your job.
And that's really, new information.
I don't want me to lose my job, and I don't want you to lose your job.
Well, that seems to, you're right.
Well, if that's clarified and that's the intention that both of you have, that neither one of you wants the other to lose his or her job, one of the approaches that you could have right here is to talk about how you make that happen. Another is to use the process to be able to explore other possibilities. I mean, for instance, Lonnie, you said, well, maybe I could work at home. Ruth, you were skeptical about that because Lonnie didn't have the track record to work at home.
What will tomorrow look like for each of you in the workplace if today you could make some kinds of agreements with regard to how you would like to see tomorrow. Could tomorrow be different if we painted a picture of tomorrow? Would that work for the two of you? Tomorrow, next week, and next month?
I think tomorrow, next week, and next month could be different if I truly believed that Lonnie would follow through with all of his grandiose ideas.
Can we put that as one of the items up here as to how tomorrow would look?
Sure.
Can we just, yes, could we do that?
What I feel good about is that I have, well, normally in mediation situations, I feel like it's going nowhere, but I do feel like we're making some kind of progress. You've opened up a bit, the arms are down a bit. I like how you have kind of become receptive. Did you see that? Kind of she suddenly was receptive and not so rigid. So with group without rigidness.
Rigidity.
All right.
G-I-D-I-T-Y.
Is it D?
It's difficult to write up there,
It
isn't it?
sure is.
Structure, is that the word you're going to write down? Unfortunately, that's not possible. So
I
don't
need to
understand
go
what's going
back
on.
to what we're creating here on this board, and that's tomorrow. Maybe we could you put the word tomorrow up there for us? Perhaps that might help. In another column, maybe if you could put the word tomorrow up there for us so we can keep the perspective. Would you give her another column? Could you write tomorrow for us up
You
there?
want me to write on the board?
Tomorrow.
You're a supervisor.
Tomorrow.
You're in this position.
Tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. Can we try that? Tomorrow would be the topic. No, let's put a topic up there. Tomorrow. This is our tomorrow. All right. Now you can, while you're there, why don't you tell us what would have to happen to make tomorrow look different from today? Okay, we'd have to define rigidity and openness. Good.
Maybe if I could be at home, maybe if I could work from home. And rather than spend time coming in and having to see Ruth and deal with Ruth, but just be able to focus on the work at the house and email it in, send it in, and not have that kind of connecting with her.
Well, that's a very creative idea. Have you ever suggested that to Ruth?
I haven't.
Would it be okay if I...
Would you mind?
I would not mind. Let me see if I understood what you just said, because I want to make sure. Because I'm hearing a little bit of conflicting information. Are you saying that you would be willing to let him work more at home?
If he would tell me what he's working on and check in, so that when I am to be held accountable, I can know what's going on, so that when I am questioned, where's Lonnie? What's he working on right now? How come I haven't seen him in 3 days at work? I can say, oh, actually, because of whatever, reason A, and such has been done to this point.
But I can't help but ask, is this a durable solution? Would you be covering for him, or would this be with the consent of upper management?
Is there anything in stopping as a way of wrapping this up that you could acknowledge that you appreciated in this conversation from the other?
This may be a stretch, but see if there's something that happened here today, anything at all that you appreciated from the other.
I think that I appreciate the attempt to commit to an hourly adjustment.
And I do too.
That was your attempt. What do you appreciate about mine?
That you also are attempting.
And that's a small step in the right direction, and as long as you're both committed to working on that, I think there's some hope for the future here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Y'all ready to close down this first meeting? I always like to end every mediation session. I know this is short, it's only an hour. And do you all wish to come back to review these things, or you want to play it by ear and see how maybe you'll have a meeting between the two of you without mediation?
I think we should do it. I think we should schedule another one
Yeah.
to do a follow-up to see how
Please.
these next few weeks go.
All right. Today is Thursday. Were Thursdays better for you than other days, or did it not matter?
This,
Mhm.
How much time would you like to be able to think about this? It'll actually take me, see, this is Thursday, I will get this to you. Is email appropriate?
For me, it is.
Yeah, that's
All right.
probably the best.
Well, I can email that to you by Monday. So you
Oh, so
might
by
want to have some
Thursday.
time to
Yeah,
be looking at or thinking about it, or you might not need that time.
that seems reasonable.
So next Thursday, you think would have given you enough time to look at things?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so.
Okay. Same time, same place?
please.
Okay. Anything that you'd like to say to each other as you close the meeting? Whether they're words of appreciation or whether they're words of clarification or saying nothing. We will bring it to a close. I thank you for the opportunity and privilege of working with you.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank
a
you.
privilege. Thank you. Anything to say to each other?
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we did. I think we made a lot of progress
I think so.
in this short time.
Mhm.
Good, great. Sleep on it. See where you go. You can always shift around. It's the beauty of the process. But then there'll become a time when you'll make some decisions, right? Some pretty hard and fast decisions.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Good.